Today, I'm going to be talking to you about ADHD. What is ADHD? ADHD, or Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, is a developmental disorder that affects around 6.8% of adults around the world. I have ADHD, my family has ADHD, and 8% of children in Thailand are diagnosed with ADHD. But what is it? Well, according to understood.org, the definition of ADHD can be characterized by its three main symptoms: hyperactivity, inattentiveness, and impulsivity. However, not all three of these symptoms are required to be present for someone to be diagnosed with the disorder. ADHD can also be characterized by its three main types: the impulsive type, or the hyperactive type, the inattentive type, and the combined type of ADHD. The hyperactive type of ADHD is known for its symptoms of constant movement, poor impulse control, and, ill behavior management. Again, the hyperactive type of ADHD can also be known as the impulsive type of ADHD. The inattentive type of ADHD tends to struggle more with paying attention, easy distractibility, and this type of ADHD was once formally known as ADD, or Attention Deficit Disorder. But people with this type of ADHD tend to get overlooked or labeled as daydreamers because they don't outwardly show their symptoms as much as someone with the hyperactive type. And the final type, which is the combined type of ADHD, is a combination of the other two. Now, yes, there are symptoms that relate specifically to these types of ADHD. However, there are overall symptoms that can affect anybody who has ADHD. For example, hyperactiveness is a symptom that affects everyone with ADHD, whether that be outwardly or inwardly. Forgetfulness, procrastination, zoning out, fidgeting are all symptoms that affect someone who has ADHD. However, there are lesser known symptoms that can affect someone with ADHD. For example, time blindness. Someone who struggles with time blindness might not know how much time has gone by, whether that be hours or just mere minutes. Another one is ADHD paralysis, or functional freeze. This is when someone with ADHD has all of their work set up in front of them, but when it finally comes down to getting the work done, they don't have the executive function or the motivation to actually do the work. They just can't. And although there are these lesser known symptoms compared to things like inattentiveness and forgetfulness, these symptoms do affect someone with ADHD just as much as the others. Like I previously mentioned, I myself have ADHD. I was diagnosed when I was in 7th grade at the age of 13. But in elementary, I struggled a lot before I was diagnosed. In 4th grade, I found myself comparing myself to other students a lot because I felt like I was stupid compared to what they were able to accomplish. I learned at a much slower pace compared to my classmates, and so I fell behind in things like math, and I felt stupid compared to them. So in 4th grade, I dealt with stress and anxiety for the first time in my life. In fact, I dealt with stress and anxiety so much to the point where I was becoming physically sick. I would get stomach aches, headaches, and at one point I even needed glasses because of that stress and anxiety. This was in 4th grade. And to put it into perspective, I have yet to feel the same amount of stress and anxiety as I did in 4th grade as a high schooler. As a high schooler who has so much more work and so many more responsibilities compared to when I was in 4th grade. I don't need glasses anymore, and this was all in 4th grade. For the next 3 years of my life, I continued to struggle with my stress and my anxiety, and I didn't know why. In 6th grade, I dealt with failure for the first time in my life. I had 2 Fs in 2 of my classes. And I remember sitting at a parent-teacher conference and being told that I was lying because of the amount of times I was forgetting to bring in or forgetting to do my homework. And that is a totally reasonable thing to believe. If a student comes in and tells a teacher over and over again that she is forgetting her homework or forgetting to do her homework, it is reasonable to believe that she's just trying to get out of doing her work. That's reasonable. But I wasn't lying. I was being genuine. So I found myself questioning, was I actually lying? Was I not telling the truth? Was I not actually forgetting? And it made me feel really, really stupid. I finally got diagnosed when I was in 7th grade. And I oftentimes say that I wish I was diagnosed earlier because of the amount of pain and frustration and struggles that I went through. But at the same time, I don't think I would have understood what ADHD was if I hadn't been diagnosed when I was, and if I had been diagnosed earlier. Finally, I was getting things back together in 8th grade. I had everything figured out. I was on top of my homework. Stress and anxiety was handling it. But then COVID-19 happened to come around. So fun. And joys, my 2nd semester was spent almost entirely online. And at first, that felt awesome because I could do my homework at my own pace. Oh, that felt so cool. And I could work wherever I wanted. I could work in my bedroom, I could work in my living room, I could work in my dining room, I could work wherever I wanted. And that felt so cool until it wasn't. And I found myself in a pit of unfinished homework that was days or even weeks late. And that was a struggle for me because I would forget to do it. I would forget to do my homework. I would forget to eat, forget to take care of myself, forget to go and join office hours so that I could get help from teachers. I started locking myself in my bedroom, not even leaving the room. I don't know what I was doing, but I wouldn't leave. The extroverted side of ambiverted me was dying. And I didn't know how far I was in this pit until my parents noticed this, and they pulled me out of that pit, and they helped me get back on my feet. In fact, if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be where I am today. My parents were by my side the entire time I was struggling. They got me social media during a time I couldn't just go out and socialize with my friends whenever I wanted. They took me to a psychiatrist to figure out if I needed medication or not. And even though I tried medication and didn't like how it made me feel, it was the first of many steps to figuring out what ADHD was for me. And it encouraged my curiosity to learn. In fact, if you would like to know, I am the inattentive type of ADHD, which means I tend to struggle more with zoning out and paying attention. I am not on medication, like I previously mentioned, because I didn't like how it made me feel, but I'm open to trying other kinds of medication at some point in the future. Some symptoms that I tend to struggle with are forgetfulness, time blindness, and rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And I am so, so thankful that I finally get to share this information that I have learned with all of you. Because there is so much misinformation, stigmatization, and just misinformation that surround the disorder itself. And in fact, tonight, I am going to share with you 4 disorders or myths that surround the disorder. Myth number 1, ADHD isn't a real disorder. That is false. In fact, ADHD has science to back up the disorder. It is a lack of dopamine or dopamine receptors that don't work as well as in neurotypical minds. And because there's a lack of dopamine, at least a lack of dopamine communication, it is so much harder for someone with ADHD to get the executive function or the motivation to do work at the same way other people can. And this can also play into the myth that ADHD people are lazy or just need to try harder. They just don't have the executive function to do things the same way that you or someone who is neurotypical can. In fact, if someone is paralyzed in front of us and cannot walk up the stairs, we're not going to force them to walk up the stairs because we can see physically that they are disabled. Instead, we will take them up the ramp because we know that is how they are going to achieve the same goal as someone who is neurotypical or as someone who can walk. So we should treat ADHD that same way. Instead of forcing them to reach goals the same way that someone who is neurotypical can, we need to find their ramp to get to that goal. Myth number 2, girls can't have ADHD. That is false. I am a girl and I have ADHD, but yeah, when science first started researching what ADHD was, they only really researched it on boys. because boys tend to be more likely to have the hyperactive type of ADHD. This means that they show it more and they're able to be more hyperactive, whereas the inattentive type of ADHD is more likely to be found in girls. This doesn't mean that a girl can't have the hyperactive type or a boy can't have the inattentive type of ADHD. It's just what is more likely to happen. Myth number 3, ADHD is just an excuse to get high. Yes, I am aware that there are drugs like Adderall and Ritalin that can make people high, but ADHD needs those kinds of medication because they increase the dopamine inside of their mind, which allows them to be able to focus. And also, people with ADHD need that dopamine in order to do the same things that a neurotypical mind can. And myth number 4, you can outgrow it. That is also false. People with ADHD have the disorder with them for the rest of their lives. But the part of growing up is actually figuring out how to live in this crazy world with ADHD and how to mature past that. You deserve to know the truth about ADHD. It is so crazy, and there's so much information that is wrong about it. In fact, if you think you have ADHD or someone you know has ADHD, or you're learning about it for the first time today, you can actually look it up and research it yourself. Students, don't be afraid to ask for accommodations, and parents and teachers, be willing to accept it and empathize and validate people with this disorder. Be willing to listen to them and offer them the accommodations that they need. Students, don't be afraid to ask for accommodations. They are equalizing of race where it is unfair for you. They are giving you ramps when you can't walk up the stairs. And research it. Please, please research it. Learn about it yourself. This goes for everybody. Understood.org, ADD Attitude Magazine, and How to ADHD, which is a YouTube channel, are great places to start. How to ADHD, a YouTube channel, Understood.org, and How to ADHD, ADD Magazine. Please learn about it. This is the truth about ADHD. I hope you learned something today, and I hope that you are more willing to accept the disorder as it is. If you have the disorder, you are loved and you are valued, and you are not at all going to be suffering for the rest of your life. And I hope that you have learned something today. ADHD is important, and it is valued, and you are seen. You're not alone. I hope that you learned something today, and I hope that you have a heart that is more willing to accept ADHD, learn about it, and help others or help yourself with it. Thank you.